The rain hammered against the cathedral windows like 1,000 tiny fists demanding entry. Inside, the stone floor drank up the cold, radiating it through the air until every breath felt like swallowing winter itself. Candles flickered in iron sconces, their light barely reaching the vaulted ceiling where shadows pooled thick as oil. Draven Kale stood motionless in the center of the nave, his black coat hanging still despite the draft that made the flames dance. For centuries of existence had taught him to recognize the scent of fear, and tonight it saturated the air, sharp and acidic, cutting through the must of old incense and older stone. The child huddled behind a splintered pew near the entrance, her small frame barely visible in the gloom. She couldn't have been more than 7. Her clothes hung in tatters, soaked through and clinging to bird-thin limbs. Dark hair plastered itself against a pale face smudged with dirt and something darker. Blood, perhaps. Not hers, he noted with the detached observation of a predator assessing prey. But he wasn't here to hunt. The girl's heartbeat thundered in his ears, rapid, erratic, terrified. Yet she hadn't run when he'd entered. That alone intrigued him. Most humans fled on instinct, some primal part of their brain recognizing what he was even when their conscious mind refused to accept it. He took a single step forward. The sound of his boot against stone echoed through the empty cathedral like a gunshot. The child flinched but held her ground, pressing herself harder against the scarred wood of the pew. Her eyes, wide and dark as bruises, tracked his movement with the desperate focus of a cornered animal. "You shouldn't be here," he said. His voice emerged softer than intended, though it still carried the weight of centuries. "This place isn't safe." A bitter laugh wanted to escape him at the irony. Nothing was safe when he was near. The girl's lips trembled, but no sound emerged. She clutched something against her chest, a stuffed rabbit, its fur matted and one ear hanging by threads. The toy was so worn it might have been white once, though now it matched the gray of the stones around them. Draven moved closer, each step measured and deliberate. He learned long ago that sudden movements triggered flight responses, and something about this child's stillness suggested she'd already run as far as she could. "Who were you running from?" The question hung in the cold air between them. The girl's mouth opened, closed, opened again. When words finally came, they emerged as barely a whisper, hoarse and cracking. "The bad man." Of course. There were always bad men. Draven had been called worse himself, and with good reason. He'd built his reputation on fear, carved his territory from the bones of those who challenged him. The Vampire King of the Northern Territories didn't earn that title through mercy. "Where are your parents?" The child's face crumpled, and for a moment he thought she might cry. Instead, she straightened slightly, lifting her chin in a gesture that spoke of stubborn pride despite the tears gathering in her eyes. "Mama left. She said I was too much trouble. Said she couldn't keep running with me," slowing her down. The word struck something in Draven's chest he'd thought long dead. He'd seen countless cruelties in his extended lifetime, had committed more than his share, but there was something particularly vicious about a mother abandoning her child. The girl couldn't have weighed more than 50 pounds soaking wet, which she currently was. "And your father?" "Never met him." She said it matter-of-factly, as if this were simply how the world worked. Perhaps for her it was. Draven crouched down, bringing himself closer to her eye level. The movement felt awkward. He couldn't remember the last time he'd lowered himself for anyone. The girl pressed back against the pew, but her gaze never left his face. Up close, he could see the full extent of her condition. Bruises mottled her arms in various stages of healing. Her lips were chapped and split. The hollows beneath her cheekbones spoke of too many missed meals. But it was her eyes that held him. They carried a weariness no 7-year-old should possess, an ancient exhaustion that mirrored something in his own reflection. "These bad men," he said carefully. "Are they still looking for you?" She nodded, the movement jerky and quick. "They want to take me back. To the place. Where they?" Her voice broke, and she buried her face against the rabbit's matted fur. Draven didn't need her to finish. He'd encountered enough human trafficking rings in his territory to fill in the blanks. The scent of old cigarette smoke and stale alcohol clung to her clothes beneath the rain, the signature smell of the kind of establishments that dealt in innocence. A sound from outside made them both freeze. Voices, rough and slurred, calling out in the darkness beyond the cathedral doors. "Little girl, we know you're in there. Come on out now. We won't hurt you. Your mama sold you fair and square." The child's heartbeat accelerated to a hummingbird flutter. She looked up at Draven with those bruised eyes, and he saw the exact moment she made her decision. The instant she chose to trust a monster over the humans hunting her. "Please," she whispered. The word carried more weight than any plea he'd heard in decades. "Please don't let them take me." Draven rose to his full height as the cathedral doors burst open. 3 men stumbled in, bringing the rain with them. They reeked of cheap whiskey and cheaper intentions. The one in front, balding, with a scar running from his temple to his jaw, grinned when he spotted the girl. "There you are, you little bitch. Caused us a hell of a lot of trouble tonight." His companions fanned out, moving with the practiced coordination of men who'd done this before. They hadn't noticed Draven yet, their attention fixed entirely on their prey. The scarred man took a step forward. "Come here. Now." The girl whimpered and pressed herself against Draven's leg. Her small hand clutched at his coat with desperate strength. That touch decided everything. Draven felt something shift inside him, some long-dormant instinct roaring to life. The protective fury that rose in his chest was primal and absolute. These men had hurt this child, had hunted her through the rain like an animal, had bought her from a mother who should have died before allowing such a transaction. They would not touch her again. "Gentlemen," Draven said, his voice cutting through the rain's percussion, "I suggest you leave." All 3 men finally noticed him. The scarred one squinted through the gloom, trying to make out details in the candlelight. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone you don't want to meet." The man laughed a wet, ugly sound. "That right? Well, we got business with the girl. So why don't you mind your own?" He never finished the sentence. Draven moved faster than human eyes could track. One moment he stood beside the child, the next he had the scarred man by the throat, lifting him off his feet as easily as picking up a doll. The man's companions stumbled backward, their bravado evaporating like morning mist. "She's under my protection now," Draven said quietly. His eyes had shifted, reflecting the candlelight with an inhuman gleam. "Leave. Don't come back. If I see any of you again, I won't be this merciful." He released his grip. The scarred man collapsed to the floor, gasping and clutching his throat. The 3 of them scrambled for the door, their retreat graceless and panicked. The cathedral fell silent again, except for the rain and the girl's ragged breathing. Draven turned back to find her staring up at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Not fear. He'd expected fear. Instead, she looked at him with something closer to wonder. "You're the bad man," she said slowly. "But you're not bad to me." He should have corrected her, should have explained that he was exactly what she called him, a bad man, a monster, someone who'd done terrible things and would likely do more. But the words stuck in his throat. The girl stepped closer, still clutching her rabbit. "Will you be my dad?" The question hit him like a physical blow. In 400 years, no one had ever asked him for anything so impossibly simple and utterly complicated. "I'm not." He started, then stopped. What could he say? That he wasn't father material? That he was a vampire king with enemies who would use any weakness against him? That she deserved someone better, someone human and warm and capable of the kind of love she needed? But she was looking at him with those ancient eyes and that young face, and he knew she had nowhere else to go. Draven knelt down again, meeting her gaze directly. "You stay with me now," he said. The girl's small hand slipped into his, her fingers cold and sticky with rain. Draven felt the weight of that touch like a chain settling around his chest, binding, permanent, terrifying in its fragility. "Okay," she whispered. He stood slowly, her hand still in his, and looked down at the top of her matted hair. The rabbit dangled from her other arm, one ear dragging on the stone floor. Outside, the rain had softened to a steady patter against the stained glass windows, washing away the blood the 3 men had tracked across the threshold. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lyra." Her voice was so quiet he had to lean down to hear it. "Lyra Vane." "Lyra," he repeated, testing the shape of it. The name felt delicate in his mouth, like something that might break if he said it wrong. Kulme, we need to get you somewhere warm. 10 years passed like water through his fingers. I watch her from the doorway of the training room, my arms crossed over my chest, trying to decide if I'm proud or terrified. Probably both. Definitely both. Lyra moves through the combat sequence Marcus taught her last week, her 17-year-old body all lean muscle and control grace. The wooden practice sword whistles through the air, her footwork precise on the padded floor. She's wearing black training clothes, her dark hair pulled back in a braid that swings with each pivot and strike. She's beautiful, dangerous, nothing like the small, broken thing I found in that cathedral. Your left side's dropping, I call out. She doesn't break rhythm, just adjust her guard mid-strike. I know, I'm baiting. Baiting who? The practice dummy. You never know when a practice dummy might get ambitious. She spins, drives the wooden blade into the dummy's chest, then steps back and finally looks at me. Her eyes, still those same ancient eyes, though they've learned to smile now, catch the light from the high windows. Besides, Marcus says I need to work on my feints. Marcus says a lot of things. I step into the room, and the familiar scent of leather and sweat fills my nose. This space has become hers over the years, more than any bedroom or sitting room in the sprawling estate. He also said you were supposed to finish an hour ago. She shrugs, spinning the practice sword in a casual flourish that took her months to master. Couldn't sleep. That makes my chest tighten. The dreams again? Just restless. She sets the sword in the rack with the others, each one perfectly balanced, each one a tool I've given her to survive in a world that wants to devour her. You're up early. I don't sleep much. I move to the windows, looking out over the grounds. Dawn is still hours away, the sky that deep purple-black that comes before true morning. The estate spreads out below, all stone walls and iron gates, and carefully cultivated gardens that hide security measures most humans can't imagine. There's a gathering tonight. The northern clans. I hear her footsteps behind me, soft on the mats. You're going. I have to. I turn to face her. She's grown tall. Not as tall as me, but tall enough that I no longer have to look down very far to meet her eyes. Which means you need to stay here. With Marcus. Her jaw sets in that stubborn line I've come to know too well. I'm not a child anymore. I know that. Then let me come with you. I've been training for this. You've been training me for this. I've been training you to survive. I correct, and my voice comes out harder than I intended. The words echo off the stone walls. Not to walk into a room full of vampires who would see you as nothing more than leverage against me. She flinches just slightly, and I hate myself for putting that look on her face. But she needs to understand. The world I've built around her, this fortress of safety and routine and careful control, it's all that stands between her and the things that would tear her apart to get to me. I'm not weak, she says quietly. I never said you were. I close the distance between us, put my hand on her shoulder. Her skin is warm through the thin fabric of her training clothes, pulse beating steady beneath my palm. So alive, so fragile. But you're human, Lyra, and in that room tonight, that makes you pray. She looks up at me, and I see the war in her expression, the need to prove herself fighting against the trust she's placed in me for a decade. Finally, she nods. Okay, but you have to promise me something. What? Come back. Her hand covers mine on her shoulder. Whatever happens in there, whatever politics or power plays or ancient grudges you're walking into, you come back. The words lodge in my throat like broken glass. I made her a lot of promises over the years. Promised her safety, promised her a home, promised her that the nightmares would fade and the scars would heal. But this promise, the promise that I'll always come back, that's the one I'm not sure I can keep. Still, I nod. Always. The northern gathering takes place in a mansion older than most of the vampires attending it. I move through the crowd with practiced ease, nodding to allies, ignoring enemies, keeping my expression neutral as stone. The air reeks of old blood and older grudges. Soren Volkov finds me near the back of the Grand Hall. Draven. He says my name like he's tasting something bitter. Still playing house with that human pet of yours? I don't rise to the bait. Soren has been trying to provoke me for decades, ever since I refused his alliance and his offer to turn Lyra when she was 12. The memory of that conversation still makes my hand want to form fists. Careful, Soren. Your jealousy is showing. His smile is all teeth. Jealousy? Of what? A liability wrapped in soft flesh. He leans closer, and I smell the fresh blood on his breath. Recent feeding. Sloppy. She's made you weak? Old friend. Everyone can see it. Then everyone is welcome to test that theory. I meet his pale eyes directly. Though I notice you haven't. Something flickers across his face. Anger, maybe, or calculation. Not yet. But the girl is 17 now, isn't she? Almost grown. Almost fair game. The threat hangs in the air between us like smoke. My hand moves to my side, where a blade usually rests, but this is neutral ground. No weapons. No violence. Just words and implications and the careful dance of immortal politics. Touch her, I say softly, and I will end you so slowly you'll beg for the sun. Soren laughs, but sounds forced. There it is. The weakness. You'd burn the world for her, wouldn't you? I don't answer. We both know he's right. I return home 3 hours before dawn to find Marcus waiting in the entrance hall, his face grim. What happened? The question comes out sharp. She's fine, he says quickly, raising his hands. She's in her room. But Draven, she went out. The world tilts sideways. What? She was gone for maybe 2 hours. Came back around midnight. Wouldn't say where she'd been. Marcus runs a hand through his gray-streaked hair. He looks tired, which is unusual for him. I try to follow her trail, but she's learned too well. Covered her tracks like you taught her. I'm already moving toward the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. Her room is on the 3rd floor, the one with windows facing east so she can watch the sunrise. I've reinforced those windows with steel shutters that close automatically at dawn, just in case I'm ever caught there when the sun comes up. I don't knock. The door swings open under my hand, and I find her sitting on the window seat, still dressed, staring out at the dark grounds. Where were you? She doesn't turn around. I went to see Tommy. Tommy, her friend from the human world, the one she's maintained contact with despite my warnings. The boy who doesn't know what she lives with, what she's become part of. I told you. I know what you told me. Now she does turn, and her eyes are blazing. You've told me 1,000 things, Draven. Stay inside. Don't trust anyone. Don't get close to humans. Don't have a life outside these walls. She stands, and I can see her hands shaking. But I'm not you. I'm not immortal. I don't have centuries to wait for things to be safe. Safe. The word comes out like a growl. You think I'm doing this to control you? To keep you locked away for my own amusement? I think you're scared. She crosses the room, stops just in front of me. I think you're terrified that something will happen to me, and you won't be able to stop it. So you've built this fortress, this prison, and you've convinced yourself it's for my protection. It is for your protection. No. Her voice drops, goes soft and sad. It's for yours. Because you can't handle losing me. The truth of it hits like a stake through the chest. I want to argue, to explain that she doesn't understand the threats, the enemies who would use her against me, the darkness that lurks just outside our carefully maintained boundaries. But she's looking at me with those eyes that have always seen too much, and I realize she's right. I've been so focused on keeping her safe that I've forgotten she needs to live. I met someone tonight. I say finally. Soren Volkov. He knows about you. He made threats. She doesn't look surprised. And you think locking me up tighter will help? I think I start again. I don't know what I think anymore. 10 years ago, I knew exactly what I was doing. I was giving child shelter. But you're not a child now, and I don't know how to let go. She reaches up, puts her hand on my cheek. Her palm is warm, her touch gentle. You don't have to let go, Draven. You just have to trust that you taught me well enough to survive. I cover her hand with mine, close my eyes. And if I didn't, then we figure it out together. She smiles, and it breaks my heart a little. That's what family does, right? Family. The word still feels foreign in my mouth, even after all these years. But looking at her, this fierce, brilliant, impossible girl who asked a monster to be her father, I think maybe I'm finally starting to understand what it means. Together, I repeat. Together, she confirms. The attack comes 2 weeks later, just after sunset. I'm in my study, reviewing reports from the border territories, when the first explosion rocks the east wall. The sound is massive, a deep boom that rattles the windows and sends books tumbling from shelves. I'm moving before the echo fades, down the hallway toward Lyra's room, but Marcus intercepts me at the stairs. They breach the perimeter. He shouts over the sound of a second explosion. At least 20 of them. Soren's clan. Lyra, already secured. I sent her to the safe room like you ordered. But even as he says it, I know it's wrong. I can feel it in my bones, in the way the air tastes like ash and blood. I push past Marcus, race down the corridor to her room. The door is open, the window is shattered, and Lyra is gone. On her bed, pinned with a silver dagger, is a note written in Soren's elegant script. Come alone, or I'll send her back in pieces. The note crumbles in my fist. Silver burns through my palm, but I barely feel it. All I can see is that shattered window, glass glittering like teeth in the moonlight. Marcus grabs my shoulder. Draven, you can't. I shake him off, already moving. Gather, everyone. Full assault formation. 5 minutes. He said come alone. I don't negotiate with dead men. But even as I say it, I'm calculating. Soren wants me isolated, vulnerable. He wants me to choose between my pride and Lyra's life. What he doesn't understand is that there's no choice to make. I'd burn every territory I've built, destroy every alliance I've forged, reduce my entire empire to ash if it meant bringing her home. The question is whether she'd forgive me for it. I find Tommy in the armory, already strapping on weapons. His hands shake as he loads silver rounds into a modified crossbow. I'm coming with you. No, she's my friend. His voice cracks. I'm not sitting here while you'll slow me down. The words are harsh, but true. And if something happens to me, she'll need someone she trusts to get her out. Someone human, who Soren won't see as a threat. Understanding flickers across his face. Fear too, but he nods. Back in trance. I'll wait there. Smart boy. I clap his shoulder once, then I'm gone, moving through the manor like smoke. The compound is chaos. Guards shouting, weapons being distributed, the acrid smell of fear and adrenaline thick in the air. But I filter it all out, focusing on the bond I've shared with Lyra since that first night she looked up at me with those fearless eyes. She's north. I can feel her like a compass point in my chest, a pull that transcends blood or magic. The tracking spell I wove in her bracelet years ago hums at the edge of my consciousness, leading me toward the old cathedral on the border of my territory. Of course, Soren always did have a flair for the dramatic. The building looms against the night sky, all Gothic arches and crumbling stone. Gargoyles leer from the roofline, their faces worn smooth by centuries of rain. The front doors hang open like a mouth. I walk through them alone. The interior is vast, empty except for rows of broken pews and shattered stained glass that crunches under my boots. Moonlight streams through the ruined roof, painting everything in shades of silver and shadow. At the far end, beneath what remains of the altar, Soren waits. And beside him, bound but unharmed, is Lyra. Relief hits me so hard I almost stumble. She's alive, conscious. Her eyes meet mine across the distance, and I see fury there, not fear. That's my girl, Draven. Soren's voice echoes through the cathedral, smooth as poison honey. So predictable. I said come alone, and here you are, playing the hero. Let her go. I move forward slowly, cataloging every detail. For vampires flanking Soren, all older than Marcus, all armed. Silver chains around Lyra's wrists. A blade pressed against her throat by a female vampire with dead eyes. Eventually, Soren smiles. First, we negotiate. You've held the northern territories for too long, old friend. It's time to share. We're not friends. No. He tilts his head. We were once. Before you grew soft. Before you let a human child turn you into something weak. The vampire, holding Lyra, presses the blade harder. A thin line of blood appears on her neck, and everything in me goes cold and sharp. Careful, I say softly. Hurt her again, and I'll make sure you die slowly. Soren laughs. There it is. That famous Draven Kale rage. But rage makes you sloppy. Emotional. It's why you'll lose tonight. Dad. Lyra's voice cuts through the tension. Not scared. Annoyed. He's stalling. I freeze. She's right. This whole setup, the cathedral, the monologue, the theatrical positioning, It's a distraction. Which means the attack comes from behind. 3 vampires dropping from the rafters like stones. I spin, catching the first one by the throat and snapping his neck before he can land. The second slashes at my chest with silver claws, opening 4 deep furrows that burn like acid. I drive my fist through his ribcage, feel his heart rupture against my knuckles. The third gets past my guard, tackling me into a pew that explodes into splinters. We roll, grappling, and I can hear Lyra shouting something, hear the sound of chains rattling. Then a crossbow bolt punches through my attacker's skull, and he goes limp. I look up. Lyra stands there, chains broken, holding a crossbow she must have taken from one of the guards. Her neck still bleeds, but her hands are steady. "You taught me to always have a backup plan," she says. Pride and terror war in my chest. Soren's vampires are closing in, and she's standing there exposed, human and fragile despite the weapon in her hands. Behind me, I order, moving to shield her. "No." She doesn't move. "We do this together. Remember?" Soren claps slowly, the sound mocking. How touching. The monster and his pet, united against the world. "But you're outnumbered, Draven. And she's just a girl. She's my daughter." The words come out like a vow. "And she's worth more than your entire bloodline." "Then prove it." They come at us all at once. Soren and his remaining 4 vampires, moving with the coordinated precision of a pack. I meet them head on, using every ounce of speed and strength I possess. Centuries of combat experience flow through my muscles, turning me into something more weapon than man. I tear through the first vampire, then the second. Blood sprays across broken stone. Silver burns where their blades find purchase, but I don't slow down. Can't slow down, because Lyra is behind me, and if I fall, she dies. But she's not just standing there. She's moving too, using the crossbow with surprising accuracy, keeping the vampires at a distance. She's remembered everything I taught her. Stay mobile, control the space, never let them surround you. Soren circles us, looking for an opening. He's older than the others, faster, and when he finally strikes, it's like fighting lightning. His blade finds my shoulder, my side, my thigh. Each wound burns with silver poison, slowing me down degree by degree. "You're getting old, Draven," he hisses, dancing back for my counterstrike. "Weak. That girl has made you soft." He feints left, then drives right, straight toward Lyra. Time slows. I see the trajectory of his blade, see exactly where it will enter her chest, see the calculation in his eyes. Kill the girl, break the king. I don't think. Just move. The sword meant for her heart punches through my back instead, erupting from my chest in a spray of black blood. Silver burns through my entire body, a fire that consumes everything. I hear Lyra scream, hear Soren's shock curse as I grab his wrist and twist until bones crack. "Wrong choice," I whisper and drive my hand through his throat. He staggers back, gurgling, and I rip the sword from my own chest. The pain is transcendent, absolute, but I stay on my feet. Have to stay on my feet. For her. Soren collapses, clutching his ruined throat. The remaining vampires freeze, staring at their dying lord. "Leave," I tell them, "or join him." They run. The cathedral falls silent except for Soren's wet breathing and Lyra's ragged sobs. I turn to her, and the look on her face breaks something in me. She's seen me fight before, but never like this. Never bleeding, never wounded, never anything but invincible. "I'm okay, I manage." "You're not." She's beside me somehow, her small hands pressed against the hole in my chest. "You're not okay." "Why did you?" "Because you're my daughter." The words come easier now, and I do it again. Every time. Her tears fall on my skin, and I realize I'm on my knees. When did that happen? The silver is spreading through my system, shutting down organs one by one. I might survive this. Probably will. But right now, in this moment, I'm just a father who took a blade for his child. "Don't leave me," she whispers. "Please. I can't do this without you." I cup her face with a bloody hand. "Yes, you can. You already have. You broke those chains yourself. Shot those vampires. Survived. You don't need me to be invincible, Lyra. You just need me to be here. Then be here." Her voice is fierce through the tears. "Stay. Always, I promise." Tommy finds us like that. me bleeding out on cathedral stone, Lyra holding me together through sheer will. He helps her get me home, helps Marcus carry me to my chambers where the old vampire begins the slow process of extracting silver from my wounds. It takes 3 days before I can stand. Another week before the burns fade to scars. Lyra never leaves my side. On the 8th day, when I'm finally strong enough to walk without assistance, I find her in the garden. She's sitting beneath the oak tree where she used to play as a child, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. I sit beside her, and for a long moment, we just exist together in comfortable silence. "I've been thinking," she says finally, "about what you offered. The blood adoption." My heart, still healing, stutters. "And I want it. Not because I need your strength or your immortality, but because—" She looks at me, and her eyes are clear. "Because you're my father. In every way that matters. And I want the world to know it." I take her hand. "The ritual is permanent. Binding. You'll be tied to me, to my bloodline, forever." "Good." She smiles. "Forever sound about right." So we perform the ritual that night, under a full moon, with Marcus and Tommy as witnesses. I speak the old words, cup my palm in hers, press them together as magic flares between us. Her blood calls to mine, and mine answers, weaving together in patterns that will last beyond death. When it's done, she's still human, still fragile, still my daughter. But now the world knows it too. She falls asleep against my shoulder as dawn approaches, exhausted from the ritual's demands. I carried her to her room, tuck her in like I did when she was 7 years old, and asked a monster to keep her safe. "I love you, Dad," she murmurs, half asleep. The words still catch me off guard. Still feel like a gift I don't deserve. "I love you too, little one," I whisper back. And for the first time in 400 years, I mean it with everything I am.